ready for the night's event. The ring is a 20-foot square over padded canvas. It is enclosed by 3 ropes adjusted precisely. It establishes the boundaries within which the state sanctions physical aggression. It is the squared circle of combat. At 7:30, the fans begin arriving and the doors are open.
Thank you.
In the dressing room, the tension builds. There is nothing to do but wait.
Yeah, I got the iron. I started looking earlier. See them in here.
Following the excesses of Rome, Christianity came to power, emphasizing the spirit over the body, and boxing disappeared for 1,000 years. During the Middle Ages, the military training of knights became the primary form of physical culture. By the 17th century, the English noblemen enjoyed a range of manly pursuits derived from military training. Boxing re-emerged at this time, but the widespread use of gunpowder and artillery reduced the importance of hand-to-hand combat, so the aristocracy gradually withdrew from dangerous exhibitions no longer having military relevance. They turned their competitive energy to gambling instead, becoming spectators, and sponsoring combatants from the lower classes to provide the amusement. In 1719, England declared its first champion, James Figg. Figg was as skilled fighting with swords and sticks as with his fists, and earned a living fighting exhibitions and giving lessons in the noble science of defense. In the 1730s, Jack Broughton became champion, the father of modern boxing. Broughton owned an indoor boxing emporium where he first introduced padded gloves called mufflers to protect nobles from facial injury during sparring lessons. And when crowds became so unruly drinking and gambling that riots ended many a bout, Broughton introduced the first set of boxing rules designed to control the crowd and preserve orderly gambling. Broughton's rules said little about the boxing itself, only that a fallen man would have 30 seconds to recover, no hitting a fallen man, and no grabbing below the waist. Beyond that, almost anything was fair play.
Just think of all the blows that are allowed in Broughton's rules: karate chops, kidney punching, grasping the opponent's head under the arm and punching it there while it's in an arm lock. That was all quite accepted and thought quite well of. Wrestling throws, cross buttocks, and jumping on the man when he was on the ground afterwards. And the crowds weren't quite sure about that. They rather admired a chap who didn't jump down heavily on the opponent whom he brought to the ground. But it was within the rules.
Boxing was a savage and bloody affair, a fight to the finish where injury and death were common. But life itself was harsh then and often short, and the lower orders of society thirsted for strong spectacle to relieve the tedium of their daily lives. These events, including boxing, met with disapproval from an emerging middle class influenced by Puritan ideals. The Puritans had ruled England for a brief time years earlier, but their strict moral doctrine denying idle pleasure shaped middle-class attitudes for centuries and remains at the center of moral opposition to boxing today. As the middle class gained political power, boxing began experiencing legal difficulties. Matches were driven out of the cities to remote country areas, but soon became the target of local authorities.
Once the sport was driven into the wild, as it were, then it became very much harassed by the local magistrates, generally on grounds that it brought large numbers of people together and so could constitute a riot. And pugilists and their backers were prosecuted for causing an affray. They were also charged with fighting a duel. The laws against dueling were applied to pugilism. Its legal status exposed it to very considerable difficulties, though at the same time one feels with more and more of the followers it added a certain spice to the occasion, made it even more risque, even more of an adventure than it would have been. It was certainly something a bit more dramatic than going to the theatre, so far as the spectators were concerned.
Knockout, the story of boxing, will continue in a moment.
Things about boxing, I suppose it's one of the earliest cases where you had adulation of the star in sport, with the boxer as hero. There was this view of the pugilist as the one the crowd could look up to, the one who promoted himself. They developed a boxing personality, a stage personality. They sold themselves, in fact, to the audience if they were successful. And the audience saw them as mirrors of themselves.
I think fans in boxing see themselves, and I think it's very, very interesting when you go to matches and you see a person who obviously has never boxed, who would have no shot in the ring whatsoever, and they are urging that fellow on in a very, very lurid way. And in that way, they are doing what they never could do, actually. So it transports them and makes them into something that they're not.
I like to watch the scientific boxing style. I really do. I think guys can move like a Willie Pastrana, Willie Pep. That's what I like to watch.
Marvin Hagler. I like him, man. He's great. And Hector Camacho, too. They're bad dudes. He's just nobody's going to beat him. That's it.
Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. He's a fighting machine. He's an all-around athlete. He's a machine.
I like Sugar Ray Leonard. Because he's smooth. He's smooth. That's it.
Well, I think because I've been able to break the stereotype image of fighters, people have accepted me more so as a personality than a jock, a sports figure.
We perform for the fans. When I'm in training and people come to see me train in training camp, if there's nobody there, it tends to grow monotonous. But with people there, it helps spur me on, especially when you got women there. They tend to get more exuberant, more enthusiastic about it.
It gives me a feeling of, I don't know, of importance, I guess. With the kids, they are a motivation to me. And I think for myself, I give them incentive. I've always stated to kids that I am not a personality or celebrity. I'm only what materializes from hard work.